The president insists that vote watchers and observers were not allowed in the rooms where votes were being counted. What about that?
Brianna, that's simply false. President Trump has previously made this claim specifically about Philadelphia, where his lawyer subsequently went in court and told the judge that it was not true. The lawyer admitted that Trump observers were allowed in.
They're counting mail-in ballots, and they don't allow any Republican to inspect. That is illegal, unlawful, against the law. I don't know how else to put it.
He's also made this accusation about Detroit, where CNN had a reporter, Annie Grayer, watching Republican watchers watch the count. And so this is baseless. Anywhere that Biden observers were allowed, Trump had people as well.
I've done many absentee ballot elections. There's a Republican on one side, a Democrat on the other. No. The Republican was outside getting pushed around by goons. When they finally get in, they're 20 feet away, and they're told to use binoculars. Binoculars.
So what about the president's claim that millions of ballots were altered by Democrats for Democrats?
The only way you can tell whether a mail-in ballot is valid is by examining the outer envelope. The minute you remove the outer envelope, it's gone. You can no longer validate it. And that's why, under the law of every state, if you don't inspect it, the vote is invalid. There are cases, including in Pennsylvania, that have been overturned for just a few ballots that were handled that way. We can prove that 632,000 ballots were handled that way, particularly in Philadelphia.
This, again, is just completely made up. We have no evidence that millions of ballots were altered. In fact, we don't have any evidence that any ballot was improperly altered. Now, people might be watching thinking, well, the president must be basing this on something. It must be a stretch. No, this is completely, Brianna, conjured again out of thin air. And I'll remind you that the president also made a false claim of millions of illegal votes. In the 2016 election, he won.
In Detroit, we have evidence that 100,000 ballots were brought in at 4:30 in the morning.
What about the president's claim that votes were cast after the election was over?
That didn't happen, at least on any large scale. A ballot or two might have slipped through the cracks, I can't be sure. But in general, here is what happened. More than 20 states, as usual, accepted ballots that were received after Election Day. Those include military ballots. However, those votes had to be cast, had to be mailed on or before Election Day. So the voting happened by the normal deadline. It's simply that the mail arrived afterward.
Witnesses, and there are 4 of them, saw it, and one of them is an ex-employee of Dominion. According to them, every single ballot was for Biden. And not only that, whatever ballots they could see, because these weren't Republicans, so they could get closer. Every ballot they could see, it just had Biden's name on it. Nobody else, not even another Democrat.
And those actually had to be counted by law. It would have been illegal to not count them. So we should definitely point that out. These are people exercising their rights. In many cases, they are serving around the country.
Now, why does that happen? It happens because you know you're behind, you call off the counting, and then you start doing ballots like this. You can't do the down ticket. That's why you have Biden and no down ticket, because they just had enough time to get Biden's name in. We never got a chance to inspect a single one of those.
And then the president has been raging against Dominion voting machines. He and his supporters claiming that these machines deleted votes for Trump or they switched them to Biden. What are the facts on that?
I can prove that they did it in Michigan. I can prove it with witnesses. We're investigating the rest. In every one of those states, though, we have more than enough illegal ballots already documented to overturn the result in that state.
There is no evidence that there was any issue with Dominion voting systems that resulted in votes being lost. There is certainly no evidence there was any deliberate nefarious behavior by this company, Dominion Voting Systems.
Not only did they use a Venezuelan company to count our ballots, which almost should be illegal per se. Number 2, they didn't allow Republicans in key places to observe the mail vote.
The fact is, this is software and hardware that is widely used around the country in red states, blue states, red counties, blue counties. There were a couple of issues in Michigan, but those were caused by human error.
They didn't do it everywhere. They did it in big cities where they have corrupt machines that will protect them.
There's one insignificant issue with the software in Georgia that resulted in a delay in the reporting of the results, but not in the counting.
They didn't have to do it in Chicago, in New York, or Boston. They could have. They have corrupt machines there.
Trump administration's own Department of Homeland Security issued a statement last week in which they said in bold type, there is no evidence that any voting system altered or lost any votes. This is, again, completely, Brianna, imaginary.
They did it absolutely in Phoenix, Arizona. They did it absolutely in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Republicans were shut out.